Luke chapter 15. I know you guys have never heard of this chapter and verse before, or book of the Bible and chapter. But I am going to, not necessarily going to be preaching on the prodigal himself. In fact, we're going to look at two other people in the scripture that I've never really heard preached on before. But it's something the Lord gave me, kind of showed me. It's something I've been wanting to preach for years, but He kind of made me wait because if I would have preached where I wanted to, it would have been technically scripturally wrong. So I'm glad He made me wait until I got to study it and found some things out and just made some things more clear. So we're going to be focusing on tonight, instead of just the prodigal, we're going to be focusing on two people in Luke chapter 15. We're going to be looking at the father of the prodigal and then the elder son, the brother of the prodigal. So Luke chapter 15, we'll start in verse 20, and I'll read to the end of the chapter. It says, "And he arose and came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, Bring forth the best robe, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet. And bring hither the fatted calf, and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. He was lost, and is found. And they began to be merry. Now his elder son was in the field, and he came and drew nigh to the house. He heard music and dancing. He called one of the servants, and asked what these things meant. He said unto him, Thy brother is come, and thy father hath killed the fatted calf, because he hath received him safe and sound. And he was angry, and would not go in. Therefore came his father out, and entreated him. And he answering said to his father, Lo, these many years do I serve thee, neither transgressed I at any time thy commandment, and yet thou never gavest me a kid, that I might make merry with my friends. But as soon as this thy son was come, which hath devoured thy living with harlots, thou hast killed for him the fatted calf. And he said unto him, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. It was meet that we should make merry and be glad. For this thy brother was dead, and is alive again, and was lost, and is found." Obviously, if you were to read the beginning of the chapter, Jesus was starting to talk to the publicans and sinners, and then as usual, the Pharisees come up, try and cause trouble. So he gives them a few parables about the lost coin, and then this one specifically about the prodigal. But as I said earlier, I want to talk about two people that never really get preached about. It's usually when it's Luke 15, it's always the prodigal. But tonight I want to look at three qualities of the father and then three qualities of the son. Qualities or characteristics. But let's focus on the father first. The first quality or the characteristic of the father was he was compassionate. And if you read in verse 20, it says, "And he arose and came to his father, but when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had" what? Compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. You notice it said when he was a great way far off. It wasn't when he was right next to him and his son was begging for forgiveness. No, the father ran to him because he had compassion. That's because he loved him. No greater love than a parent's love, other than Christ, for us. But my love for my kids is something different than any other love. I love you all, but it's different than my kids. He had compassion. He didn't, again, like I said, he didn't wait for his son to come to him. He ran to his son. He ran. He didn't say he walked. Now, it never says how old the parent is or how old the kids were or anything like that. But obviously, I'm sure he was probably maybe 20s or so, give or take. I'm just speculating. I'm not going to say for sure he was, 25 and 3/4 old. But I'm sure his father was maybe 50s or so, but he ran. He ran to his son because he had compassion to him. It says, and he ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. Not only did he have compassion, but his father was forgiving. Verse 22 says, this is after his son says, I am no more worthy to be called thy son. It says, but the father said to his servants, bring forth the best robe, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet, and bring hither the fatted calf, and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. He wasn't like, well, you ruined my reputation. You ruined the family's image, so why don't you just get out of here? No, he said, he didn't even try to rebuttal his son. He said to his servants, give me a ring, give me the shoes, kill the fatted calf. We're going to celebrate because my son is home. Not only was he forgiving, but he was merry. Now, originally I had glad, but then I looked up the difference between merry and glad, and there is a difference because if you read down in verse 32, it says, make merry and be glad. Now, obviously, there's no mistakes in the Bible, so when there's different wording, they mean different things. So I said he was merry, and merry means noisy fun, laughter, festive celebration. So usually, when people say Merry Christmas, that's what it usually means. Festive, celebration, noisy fun. He's like, hey, we're going to have a party. And obviously his father wanted to go out because he cared about his son, that he was lost, he was out in the world, he was doing those things, and now he's home. He was merry. He wanted to make sure that people knew that his son was home. He wasn't embarrassed of his son saying, hey, let's just get inside and let's just clean you up. Let's just do these things, and then we'll wait a few days, and then we'll tell the people you're home. He said, no, right now, you are home. You have been found. I'm going to throw a party. Basically, that's what he said. We're going to make sure everyone knows that my son has finally come home. Now, let's look at the qualities or the characteristics of his brother. Start in verse 28. First 4 words don't start off very well. And he was angry and would not go in. Therefore came his father out and entreated him. He was angry. Angry. Angry at his own brother coming home after being out doing the things that he did. Angry. I don't understand how a brother could be angry at their brother for being safe, for finally coming home, coming to his senses. But he was angry at his brother. I can't wrap my mind around it. Not only was he angry, but he compared his life to his brother's life. Look in verse 29, it says, and he answered and said to his father, lo, these many years do I serve thee, neither transgress I at any time thy commandment, and yet thou never gavest me a kid that I might make merry with my friends. He just compared the way he lived to what his brother was living. The Bible is very clear, don't compare your life to others. Don't compare the things that you have to others. Comparison is never a good thing. I remember in Bible college, I think it was my freshman year, I didn't grow up rich. I didn't grow up with the nice phones or the greatest of things. We got by, of course. But I saw my roommates, I saw friends that I eventually met at college with the nice phones, the iPhones, the newer Androids, the Samsung Galaxy S17. I don't know what was back then. So I started to compare. I had like a phone. Yeah, the phone was this big. That's how big my phone was. The whole thing. That's how big my phone was when I went to Bible college. And it wasn't like I went back in the early 2000s or the mid 2000s. No, this was 2017. I had a phone this big. And I started to compare. I'm like, I want a phone like that. So what did I do? Well, I found the nearest Cricket, went inside, and said, I want to buy a new phone. Did I need the new phone? No. Did I have the money for it? Just barely. Did I buy it? Absolutely. Why? Because I compared to the things that I had what others had. He compared his life, I don't even have a pocket there. He compared his life to his brother's. Father, I never transgressed thy commandment. I never left home, but yet he did. He he says what he said in verse 29. Lo, these many years that I make merry. Verse 30. But as soon as thy son was come home with which hath devoured thy living with harlots, thou hast killed him for the fatted calf. Father, you never threw me a festive party. You never celebrated me just staying here and doing whatever you told me to do. But as soon as your son, who was out in the world doing horrendous things, and he comes home, you throw him a party? Are you serious? He started comparing. Not only did he compare himself to his brother, but he was jealous. Verse 30. But as soon as thy son was come, I've read it before, which was come, which hath devoured thy living with harlots, thou hast killed him for the fatted calf. He was jealous of his brother. He was jealous because he didn't get what he thought he deserved. Another clear sin in the Bible is jealousy. Don't be jealous. Obviously, this was a parable, but how many times in real life do we get jealous because your coworker got the promotion maybe you thought you deserved? Or something happened that you thought wasn't fair, and so you get jealous. He was jealous. Now, of the three qualities of the Father and three qualities of the Son, which one had the better reaction? Was it the Father or the Son? Father. Both blood, both from the same family, but they both didn't react the same. How would you react? Now, I'm not just saying if it was your kid or if it was someone in your family. I mean just someone you knew for many years or someone you knew was coming to the church. How would you react when they returned home? What would be your response if you saw them walking through the doors? Would you have compassion? Would you forgive them? Maybe they wronged you a little bit while they were out living the life they were living. Would you be merry? Would you want to celebrate with them that they're finally back? Or would you be angry? Would you compare, Lord, why are they here? Would you be jealous because people are running up to them, hugging them, saying, I'm so glad to see you, and then you're just standing there. What a wasted life he just had. She just had. Would you embrace a prodigal or ignore them? Are you happy or angry at them? Would you accept them or reject them? Would you judge them? Because maybe you saw them walk into a bar a few times. Maybe you saw them with liquor in their hands while you were out at Walmart. Maybe you saw them on the street getting some drugs. I don't know. But maybe they finally came to their senses, came to himself, and realized the life I had with Jesus was so much better, I'm going to come home. How would you treat them? How would you react to them coming through those doors? Their clothes may not be the same. They might be covered from arm to toe with tattoos. They may have some piercings all around the place. But that shouldn't matter. The only thing that should matter is the person coming through those doors. Churches today have become a beauty pageant. They really have. Well, I'll wear this dress because I'll get compliments on it. I'll wear this suit because I'll get told I'll look very nice. And I'm not against dressing up. I'm not. But I'm also not against them just coming to church. Come to church. You never once see in the Bible when Jesus was in the temple or the synagogue or anything like that, you never see Jesus shame anyone for just coming. He never gets on anyone for what they were wearing, other than the Pharisees who, because they were boasting about what they wear, he got onto them. We care more about what the person wears at church more than the person coming to church. Let me say that again. We care more about what the person is wearing to church more than the person coming to church. I mean, it's in our nature. We just look at someone and, they won't make it. They're not living right. We do it. We should not compare. We should not look at someone else's life and compare our lives to them. You know who we should compare our lives to is Christ. You know why? Because we know we would come short every time. We would realize that, thank God I'm not a prodigal. Thank God I'm not someone who's out in the world living the life that probably would be fun for a little bit and then realize a mess I was in. But so many times, when a prodigal returns home, we give them the cold shoulder. We judge them for the life that they lived, but won't accept them for the life that they want to live for Christ. There was a youth pastor at the time. He's a pastor now, and when he was a youth pastor, he would go to Papa John's every Wednesday. Go to Papa John's, get pizza for the youth group. And after a while, he realized that the same, probably mid to late teenager, he was taking his order every Wednesday. So after a little bit, after building that relationship, one Wednesday he's like, "Hey, I'm so-and-so from this church right across the street. I would love if you would come visit sometime." And the kid was like, "Hey, I usually work, but if there's a week that I'm off, or if I have to work a little bit later and I can make it, I'll be there." He said, "Okay." And so he says, "In fact, I'll be there next week." And the youth pastor's excited. He's like, "Yes, I got someone to come to church." So, I think he was part of the choir or something, and he was waiting for him and waiting and looking, and he never saw him. Never saw the kid. And he was a little, "Oh man, he said he was going to be here." We've all been there. We invited someone, they said they'd be there, and they don't show. So we all get that little disappointment. And, that next Wednesday, he goes in there, "Hey man, you said you'd be there and you weren't. I'm just trying to make sure everything was okay." And he's like, "Yeah, well, I actually was there." "You were?" He's like, "Yeah, I walked through the doors." And, he's like, I had to work right after church, so I figured I'd just wear my Papa John's uniform and sit in the back, and I was going to be there. But this older gentleman said, "Son, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, I'm here for church." And the older man said, "Not dressed like that, you're not. Here we dress God's best." And the young kid walked out and went back and just sat in his car until he had to go to work. May we never be like that here. Amen. It doesn't matter what the guy is wearing, what the girl's wearing, as long as things are covered and they're looking for Christ, we should be like, sit down. We shouldn't be ashamed of what someone wears to church. It shouldn't matter what someone wears to church as long as they're in church. Let the Holy Spirit convict them of the things that's going on in their lives. Now, I haven't gotten the full story. That's as far as I got to the story. I don't know if he was able to get the kid to come back to church or not. I hope he did. I hope that older gentleman is eating himself up from what he said. But how many churches are like that today? Where, let's say I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt, nothing wrong with that. And we go to church and then someone makes a smart remark. And then, well, I'm never coming back to this church, or I'm never coming back to church because they're judgmental. They don't really care about me. They care more about what I'm wearing more than what I am or trying to be. Words hurt people. I remember there's a phrase as a kid, I don't know if it's still going around, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never. Biggest lie ever. Words do hurt. Words do hurt. I mean, growing up, I was short. I mean, I'm still short. I was called every short joke in the book. I was called Four Eyes. I was called Midget. I was called Hobbit. I was called Dwarf. I was called Bilbo Baggins. I was called Frodo Baggins. Okay? Eventually, I was like, haha, funny. But at first, the words did hurt. Was it true? Yeah, probably. But I mean, it still hurt. What you say could determine whether someone comes to Christ or not. How you react to them coming through those doors could determine whether they want to be part of the CrossRoads Baptist Church or not. How you look at them when they come through those doors will determine whether they want to be back or not. My wife, she's very, very vigilant. She watches people. Not in a creepy way, but she's vigilant. She she can read people very well. I'll say that. And there's some people where she's like, that person's not good. And I don't mean someone coming to church. I just mean like maybe someone I'm trying to get to know or something, or, she's like, there's something off about him. I'm like, what do you mean? He's a cool guy. No, there's something off about him. Okay. I back off a bit, and he gets in trouble with the law or something like that. I'm like, well, that saved me a lot of trouble right there. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the way you look at someone matters. The way you talk to somebody matters. Especially if someone who went away from Christ because of something like that, if they're trying to come back and they get the same treatment that they did when they were left, they would never want to do anything with church. They would never want anything to do with God again. Never. And you know who gets the victory in that? The devil. Because he's like, well, I don't have to worry about that person anymore. I'm just going to let the world have them. May we never be Christians that judge someone for coming to church. Doesn't matter what they wear, doesn't matter what they smell like, it doesn't matter. As long as they come to church, we shouldn't accept them just because they're wearing the right thing. We should accept them because Christ would do the same thing. Again, I stated earlier, Jesus not one time gone to anyone for maybe the lack or whatever they wore to church back then, but he got on the Pharisees because look at me. Look at me. Now, me personally, I'm not really a big suit guy. I'm really not. Now, I understand, preaching, there's a standard that I'm sure Pastor Cody will have if you're going to be behind the pulpit. Maybe a button-down shirt, at least, maybe a tie. I don't know his standard yet. But I know the general standard is probably just a suit coat and a button-down shirt. I don't know. Am I maybe wrong? Okay, that's his standard. Okay? So I'm going to respect that. But if you're in the pew, there should be nothing wrong with someone just coming in jeans and a t-shirt or shorts and a t-shirt or flip-flops, a tank top and shorts. We care about the soul. We care about the person. Because that's what Christ cared about. He got onto the religious a lot. Called them fools, vipers, hypocrites. And how many churches are filled with them today? They'll shame your public sin. You'll shame people's public sin, but be careful God doesn't shame your private sin. You got to be careful. How would you respond to a prodigal coming home? Again, it doesn't have to be a family member. Just someone you know or someone that you knew left God and came through those doors. They may look different. Embrace them. Have compassion on them. Yeah, they made mistakes. But thank God you didn't make the same mistakes they did. Embrace them. They said he embraced them. Obviously, if it was a girl, I probably would not embrace. But I would give a handshake. I'm so glad to see you back. Thank you for coming to CrossRoads Baptist Church. That could make or break someone coming. Rather than they come to the doors, whatever. If they see that, they're gone. The problem was the father's heart was in the right place. The father wanted his son to be back. The brother didn't care. I mean, it says he was in the field. I don't know if he was working in the field or I don't know what he was doing in the field. Most times when it says so-and-so was in the field, that usually means they're working in the Bible. So I'm assuming he was doing maybe some plow work or something, tilling up the ground. I don't know. But his first reaction to hearing his brother was back was he was angry. Don't be angry at someone who's coming back to Christ. Don't be jealous or compare your life to theirs thinking you're so much better. Because your life could go upside down in 2 seconds too. Your life could come to a complete stop in 2 seconds too. Maybe something happened to them in church when they were little. They tried going to authorities. Authorities didn't care. Tried going to their parents. The parents went to the authorities. The authorities said, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. Nothing gets done. So they're like, no one's going to care about me. I'm just going to get out. How many times does that happen where a young person, something happens to them with someone with an authority. They go to authority. Authority says, we'll take care of it. Nothing gets done. And that young person says, they don't care about me. Who does? They told me my whole life that they loved me, they cared about me, and I went to them when I was in trouble, and they did nothing. And so they go through the motions. They just try to get by until they're 18, and once they hit 18, hit the road, Jack. I'm out of here. You guys said you cared about me. I tried going to you when I was in trouble, when there was something going on, and you didn't care enough to do anything, so I'm out. That wasn't even in my message. My Bible's been closed for like a minute. But if someone says something happened, listen to them. If someone says, I'm going through something, listen to them. Have compassion. Because if you don't care about them, the world sure won't. Yeah, Christ loves them, Christ cares about them, but they're looking for someone to care about them who can lead them to Christ. How would you react if someone came through those doors that was a prodigal, that lived a life that was wicked? Would you forgive them? Would you have compassion? And would you want to be married? Would you be angry, jealous, and compare your life to theirs? Your life can turn upside down in 2 seconds. Embrace the ones that come back. Embrace them. Love them. Show them that you care. Because then eventually they'll see that Christ did care. Emma, you can come to the piano. Maybe tonight you know someone who's out in the world. You know someone who's away from God. In your life you lived with resentment. You lived with being bitter at them because maybe they did something to you while they were living that life. And you're like, what's the point? Maybe you don't know anyone that's a prodigal. Maybe you don't know anyone who's out in the world. Pray that you never do. Pray that no one in your family ever becomes one. Pray that none of your friends, pray that no one in CrossRoads Baptist Church ever becomes one. Pray for your family. Pray for those that need Jesus, need those that once were part of the fold and have wandered off. As far as being saved and knowing the gospel, we can guide those back too. I'm saying if they're already saved, we can't save them, but if they're already saved, we can be part of bringing them back to the fold. Or we can be the ones chasing them off. Are you going to be the shepherd or are you going to be the wolf? Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you for today. I want to thank you for the message that you laid on my heart, Lord. May it have been a blessing to someone in this service. Lord, I ask you to just be with everyone under in this building, Lord. And Lord, if they know someone that's a prodigal or away from the Lord, may they pray for them. May they try to guide them back to the fold, Lord, instead of chasing them off or not caring about them, Lord. May they never be like the elder brother and compare their lives to theirs, thinking they're okay, or be jealous, Lord. But may they be like the Father and have compassion. May they forgive, Lord, and may they be married. Lord, if someone needs to get something right with the Lord, may someone just needs to pray, Lord, whether it be from the altar or from their seat. Lord, may they just pray and talk to you. We love you and we thank you in Jesus' name. I'll have Emma play 2 verses. The Lord spoke to your heart, altar or your seat. Pray wherever. Let the Lord be with you. Let the Lord work with you.